My name's Todd Studer, and this is NOC Talk, presented by FMTC.
From family movie nights to epic game battles to working from home, FMTC has been connecting Southwest Iowa for 125 years, thanks to you. We're your neighbors and friends, and we care about serving our communities. That's why we continue to build the communication future. FMTC, celebrating 125 years of local service. Stay connected, explore what's possible, and celebrate with us.
Back with another episode of NOC Talk. I'm Todd Studer, and in studio today we have Isabelle Allen, and you have also brought special guests, and this is Thomas Bates that we have sitting in studio today. Great to see you again. Thank you so much. I guess I didn't scare you too bad the last time you were in the studio.
No, we had fun. We had a lot of people on the podcast the last couple times, and we had fun talking about all different topics about FMTC. So we're back here again with Thomas to talk more about the construction process, fiber construction from sign up to installation. So we have a lot to talk about.
That is going to be great information because you are always expanding. You're getting new clients and new customers and new residents in on your service, but there's a process to that. And it's not as if a lot of times you can't just throw a switch and everything's working correctly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a process, and Thomas can talk about it some more. But whenever a customer signs up on our website, we tell people to go to myfmtc.com to sign up there. But then after they sign up, what do you do?
I guess there's a lot of steps that, have to take place behind the scenes. We got to look at what's your address. Is there facilities that are already there, or is this a new area that we're coming into, or maybe we can't provide service to you at that point in time. So we get that figured out, and then we go on to the next steps of engineering, actually getting something buried to you, the splicing, and getting you some internet,
With the season that we've had this year, and winter hasn't been as bad as it has been in the past, you've been able to dig those holes all the way through the winter?
It's been one of them seasons, and I've talked to some of our more seasoned technicians and stuff, and they've never had a winter quite like this. We had about 2 weeks of break late January, and frost came back out of the ground, and we were back at it. So a little bit tough on schedules and trying to get equipment and stuff, worked on during that off season, but we'll make it through it.
So I have very little knowledge about what it is that you do. So I'm just going to guess that it's a lot easier for you if you have several new customers coming in, say in the same neighborhood. So if you're running lines there, then you can start to help a lot of people at the same time.
Yes. No, it makes it a lot easier to go into a new neighborhood and have anybody that wants to hook up right off the bat. We already have the crews on site. We already have the engineering plan. We already have the permits pulled, locates called in. When you sign up later, still can be done, and we really encourage you, if you do change your mind, you want to have our service, go ahead and do it. But if we can get you right off the bat, it's a lot more streamlined and seamless.
So what is the process then for somebody that wants to do that? How do they get signed up?
Well, I guess I'll let Belle take the first parts of this one.
Yeah, so customers can sign up on our website, myfmtc.com, or new customers can sign up there. Okay. And they'll fill out their information. If they don't know what internet speed that they want, we do have a quiz on our website, so they can kind of take a quiz about how they use their service, what type of devices they have in their home to help them choose which internet speed. And then and we do have TV service, phone service too. So they can choose all of that kind of good stuff. And then their order for service is submitted into our system in the office. And someone from our mapping department goes through and understands where their address is at, whether we can serve them now, if we have to give construction, what all we need to do. And at that point, they send the order on to the appropriate staff members.
Yep.
So
then it takes into our outside plant portion of it at that time. We schedule an appointment with you. We come out and we meet you. We talk about what services we can provide, and then if you're still interested in it, we go through what's it going to take to, physically make this happen. On our first appointment, what we like to do is a site survey. We like to go look at your home, look at your yard, look at where the placement where we're coming from and where we want to hit on the side of your house. And then we'll actually do the wiring in your house that day. So it's all ready at that point in time. Once we leave that day, we do call in locates, get everybody to come out and mark, the sewer, the water, the gas, things like that you think of. But we're also asking about those other aspects in your yard. Do you have an underground dog fence? Do you have a lantern in your yard that, you have a switch in your house? Do you have electrical buried to the garage in the back? Things that, we don't want to tear up while we're there.
Yeah, these would be questions that it's a good thing to know ahead of time. And I'm hoping that you've been doing this long enough now that not many surprises of new things, but probably impossible to anticipate every single thing that could be in there.
Yes, no, there's always something new we learn all the time, but we've been there and done this long enough that we've gotten pretty good at, anticipating what could be coming is the best way to put it.
Inside of the service area, is terrain itself much of an issue?
Terrain-wise, soil type, stuff like that is not. I mean, mostly what we have to worry about is just other utilities, and we don't want to, hurt them because then that only doesn't affect maybe your home, but it might affect the other homes in the neighborhood too. And that's the last thing we're looking for. But also it's going to be, getting it in a timely manner, but also getting it in without, tearing up your yard, tearing up your flower beds. We want it to look as good as it did when we when we came.
There's probably a lot of techniques too in order to be able to do that.
Yes.
That you're not just going out with a spade and digging a trench.
You're getting the trench through. Yeah. So we've gotten really good with technology. One of the things that helps us out a lot is a vibratory plow. So the best way I describe that is think about taking a knife and putting it in the ground, and it just shakes the ground open. We sneak a cable through the ground. It only leaves about a 1/2-inch gap, and after a couple rains, you don't even know it was there.
You don't even have to backfill it.
No.
Wow.
There's only hand digging, right against the edge of the house where it's got to come up, and in the city right away where we got to, meet the main cable. So that's the only, big areas that we'd have to grass seed back.
I would just hang out and watch that, I think.
A lot of customers do, honestly. So, but we'll get on site, we'll get that wired, we get it to the outside plant, and then we have our construction crews come out and get it installed for you, and that's not a really quick process is the best way to put it. There's a lot of steps that it takes, to make you flip that switch, have the internet on.
Well, not a quick process is it's kind of a loose way of just how long could it take? Because there's, with all of the different pieces and different moving parts and each potentially being a unique situation. So, because if I was signing up and I wanted to bring service to my house, it's going to be one of the questions I'm going to ask. All right, from the time that I say go, how long before I have the internet coming in?
Yeah, so we try to communicate with the customer at every step in the process, so they know, we've made it to the site survey phase and we've done that. Now we're moving on to mainline fiber construction. We're on to the drop construction. I hate to give timelines just because, it really just depends on weather, construction availability, all that kind of good stuff. But we try to just be in contact with the customer and let them know, where we're at in the construction process so that they know what to expect.
I think that's a big part of it. Mm-hmm. And I think back to a lot of different projects that I have done, and I've talked with people and I say, if you were going to use this, what's one of the most important things? And the number one thing I always hear is call me back. If I call, that means I've got a question and I need a call back. So you saying that is what you do, that's going to alleviate, I think, a lot of anxiety, if you will, that people may have.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and we've said this in our other episodes too, but we're your neighbors, we're your friends. We live in local Southwest Iowa, so it's really important to us that we're continuing to foster those relationships with our new customers and the communities themselves. So that's really important to us that we're continuing to communicate with everybody throughout the process.
With jumping back to something you said earlier about learning about what kind of speed you might need, does that change the installation or is it just the same cable?
It is the same cable, and actually what's nice about that is if you want to sign up for a high speed or a low speed to start with, we can change that in the office after the fact. There doesn't have to be anybody on site. if you want to try something for a couple months and you want to change your mind, it's not the end of the world. It can be done really easily.
Yeah, I like high speed. I've learned.
Yeah, you might as well just go ahead and get the highest speed from the beginning. And that's not just the salesperson in me. That way you don't have to change it later on. So.
Well, and plus two, there's a difference between download and upload. And for what we do here with our business, upload is critical because it really slows us down when you start uploading large videos, such as getting episodes back to you. We want to be able to have the internet speed that is going to effectively do that in a way that we're not sitting around for an hour waiting on that transfer.
Yep. Nope. It doesn't have anything to difference with the installation process, but it's kind of a nice thing to know when we are, trying to plan out your home. A lot of times we walk in and it's, well, where was your internet service before, if you had it? And then at that point is, where do you want it? Let's work together on where can we get the equipment put where it's going to be in a good spot. Now, that can get a little intriguing with all homes are different and unique. There's only so many areas you can get wires ran in some places. So it's a little bit of a happy medium at some points when it comes to that.
No, Thomas, I want to ask you a little bit about your background that gets you into a field like this. You got a passion for it and you have a definite knowledge about it. What led you to say, you know what, this is where I want to make my career?
So do not have any kind of an education that led me into this at all, actually. I graduated from Stanton, and I actually went to Northwest Missouri State and got my degree in agricultural sciences. But I was welcomed into the crew to work during some summer periods and stuff to kind of help out when they were shorthanded, and just kind of worked into a company that treated me well. I enjoyed the people that I worked with, and then offered me a full-time job, when I graduated. And I haven't regretted it yet, at all. I mean, it's as much as I would have loved to have been in the agricultural field, this, passion has kind of been instilled in me to stay with telecommunications.
Yeah, there's some things that you just don't know till you do know.
Yep.
And getting into a field like this, I think, is you found something that, all right, this feeds my soul in a way that I didn't really know was going to happen. And there's no possible way you could have known that before getting in there and trying. And that's actually kind of cool. I love stories like that.
Yep.
When somebody finds a passion in life that they didn't expect and just walking through a different kind of door. And I'm sure that, we talk a lot here on different podcasts about the trades and about the importance of young people giving it an option and giving it a try and just seeing. And you're an example of that, I think. And FMTC is such a great company. They're very well known. They've been around for ever.
125 years this year, yeah.
So that's there is just a theme that's running through this company, and every time I see new people come in here, it's all the same. There's an energy about you, and that's kind of inspires me when you guys come in here too. I'm grateful for that.
Well, thank you. I mean, we're really passionate about serving our customers and serving our communities, and Thomas is like the perfect example of that. So, it's great. It's great to be able to serve our communities with a connection to the world.
Well, what else would you like your customers now, or potential customers, because this is part of who we're talking to right now, to know about this process, to kind of alleviate some of their concerns before you come in?
Yeah, let's just run through some maybe frequently asked questions.
Perfect. That'd be great.
So a question that we get a lot, and we even got it today, was what do the different locate flag colors mean?
Yes. So all the utilities have their own color of flag that's out in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
So orange is communications. So that might be our own cables, or that might be another company's cables. You have yellow that's gas, blue that's water, and green that's sewer. So those are the main common ones. There is some special ones when we get into some areas, but they're not going to be probably prominently seen, in the city portion that we're going to be in this year.
The hope is that the map is right when you're putting them in there, or do they come out and can actually sense them in the ground? How does that work?
Yep. Nope. So they have locators and guys that are hired to come out and actually hook onto the cables themselves, and they can tell us exactly where they are in the ground. So we're able to locate them when we either have to go along them or across them.
Is that sometimes a complicated issue for you when that happens?
Yes. The city right-of-ways, which is the area between the street and the sidewalk can be a little bit of an interesting situation, just how the depths might vary between them and the spaces in between the different utilities when we have to make those, crossing points happen.
How surgical do you have to be sometimes?
It gets very labor intensive with hand shovels at points if needed, but we go right back to that. We do our best to do the least amount of tear up as we can. And I think the best thing to probably say is, yeah, it might look a little bit ugly right off the bat when we're digging something up, but give us some time. We're going to get it cleaned up. We promise we will.
Yeah, construction with respect is something that we really take pride in, and we'll go back and reseed yards and make sure everything's level and leave it sometimes even better than what we found it. So I think that's important to note too.
Yeah, nope. It just takes time, and we're going to come back, but it gets a little bit interesting at some points when you're in that right away with all the other utilities trying to make things work.
That's a really good point that you guys already know, that you're in someone's home. Even if you're outside in the yard, you're in someone's home. This is where they go at the end of the day where they don't want to feel stress anymore. You guys are going to work. So it's a different kind of mentality, but to respect the home part, I think, is key with this. And from what you're saying, that is definitely your philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Construction with respect. That's we're really trying to drive that home internally, but also in our communications to the communities. That's something that we value and we're prioritizing.
What's another question that you get quite a bit?
So as a technician, how do you know what internet speed you should choose?
It kind of comes into a little bit of the deal is what do you use it for? Do we work from home? Are we hardcore gamers? Do I got, 4 kids that are streaming different channels in the evenings? We trying to do schoolwork? It kind of really leads into what are we trying to do at the same time? Are we if we're hot and heavy in the evenings, between 5 and 9, you're probably going to be looking towards needing that gig of speed, but if you're one person living alone in an apartment, the 250 meg speed might be fine. So it varies, and that's what the nice part is, that if you want to try one and then adjust to another one as it goes, it will go well.
This is a different world from the 90s and the 56K modem that I used to have. I mean, seriously, it was kind of slow.
Yeah, I bet.
It would take minutes for a web page to load. Yep. And once we got to where it was just bing right there, that was a whole new world. But as you said, yeah, every place is unique. And that's something I hadn't thought about, that if you're just there by yourself, chances are you're not using multiple devices at the same time. So just don't need quite as much.
Yep, you might just not need that highest speed on it, but if you got a larger family and everybody comes home in the evenings and we're trying to do schoolwork and still work from home and stream TVs and play games, that takes a lot of bandwidth, a lot of download and upload. And what's nice about our service is having that symmetrical speed so it can go both ways.
Well, and with the world that we live in now, it's necessary.
The AI and video and all that, it takes a lot of bandwidth. So the more and more speed is, people are wanting more and more speed all the time. So
yeah, and again, not knowing what you don't know. So as you said, give it a try. If it's not enough, you can always turn up the volume, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're hoping to launch a multi-gig service here within the next year or so. So maybe I'm not supposed to say that on the podcast or not. But people's usage is just going up and up and up. So there's going to be a need for that.
Well,
soon.
and also what I know about FMTC is you guys are staying ahead of the curve, and you have to, because when the time comes that people need something, they don't want to wait around for you to develop it. They want it right now. So you need to be working ahead. And, after talking with your president and talking with everybody else, that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we really care about the customer's needs and making sure that we have that available to them whenever they're ready for it. And like you said, a lot of times they're ready for it, and we need to make sure that we know that ahead of time. So, yeah, it's a process.
What else can we let folks know about while we have you here in the studio to answer some of those questions, and maybe a little bit more than they can get just from a 2-sentence answer on a website?
Yeah, I guess, Thomas, do you want to explain the difference between the different boring machines and what machines they might see in their yard?
Yeah. So when we come into your neighborhood, we're going to start in the right-of-ways. We're going to get all our main line put in. We're going to try to get the backbone built first, get that up and running, and then we will finish up with, the segmented drops to different homes, businesses, residents, anything that might use or want our utility. And we are only taking drops to people who sign up. It's not going to every home out there. So if you do not sign up, we're not going to, come onto your property and bury a drop. So that's why it's really important for you to get onto our website, get signed up. Once we get that done, a lot of that's going to be taking place with what we call, directional bore machines. So they're going to dig up on one side of the block, and they're going to shoot a cable 1-2 blocks at a time, and that's going to be nice because there isn't a whole lot of tear up when you do that. And then, like I stated earlier, and that we'll use vibratory plows to do a lot of the drops to homes, but it comes in where we got to do, bore machines and other aspects when we got to cross sidewalks and retaining walls and other utilities, maybe fences. We got to go around other garages, stuff like that. That's why it's really hard to, say this is how we're going to do it, is every property is so unique on what we can or cannot accomplish.
And plus being in town, working around neighbors, things like that, outside of town, probably not as much. And it's an easier direct shot that way.
Yes. No, it for sure is. Out in the country, it's a lot less things to work around. There's a lot less utilities that are in those areas, but that then turns into more of those private utilities that are not marked, by those locates we call in. And that's where we got to be a little bit more cautious when we're in the country, working with the customer, working with the landowner on what is buried here.
Does it make a difference how old if it's 100-year-old house and there's been things buried in the yard for that long, and who knows where it may or may not be at that point?
We go back to, we find some interesting things when we're burying through yards, and as long as it's not used or it causes issues, we just move on through and we make the property owner aware of it. But every home is unique. That's the best way I can put it in a good way.
Let's talk a little bit about technology with the difference, because you guys are running fiber, but there are different delivery systems. I know some are just shooting through the air, which we have used in order to be able to pull off a parade, because we couldn't obviously lay fiber down to the side of the street. But and there's also traditional coax that people have been bringing into their homes for years. What is it that sets fiber apart?
Fiber is just the newest and best thing out there right now. And the reason it is because it's not affected by weather. It's not affected by storms, wind, rain. I mean, any of those aspects. The only thing that really can affect it is when your neighbor's digging in the yard next door and catches your cable, But what's nice about it is it's a true connection from our CO, our central office, to your house. You're not on a shared cable. You're not on a community cable. And the wetness in the ground, it rains, it's not going to go out. It's not a cellular device where, the wind's blowing hard enough that you don't have connection. You're always going to have it to your home. You're going to have the speeds that you pay for to that demarc.
Yeah, the weather issue was big. I think that it was something years ago when I was getting into satellite dish delivered television. They didn't tell me that a heavy rain was going to take me down, but it did. and it's the same thing that, weather conditions can really affect, especially when something's going through the air.
And it's funny you say that, because a lot of times the installs we do out in the rural area in the countryside, people, when I go back for, service appointments and those lines, or, I'm marking cables in their ditch and they come out and talk to me. It's, what I've appreciated the most is I can actually watch the tornado come in the evening. When the stuff or the weather comes through, they have no clue when there's weather alerts and stuff like that, because the TV doesn't work, their cell phones don't work. Those aspects, they enjoy knowing what's going on, when there is emergency situations.
I don't know if there's ever been a more Iowa thing said.
Besides sitting on their porch, I guess.
I could sit and watch the tornado come in. That sounds like
welcome to FMTC. Maybe that should be a new commercial. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, that would
Maybe
be
I
great.
should have said that a little different. But
No, it's okay though. That's,
good.
that's perfect. I think everybody understands what you mean.
Yeah.
And you're talking the language of the folks right around Southwest Iowa. We know what it means. Yeah, because we go out and the sky is a different kind of color. Oh, let's stand under here and watch it. We do that already, so that's excellent. Well, listen, anything else that we want to be able to get out on this episode, because we want folks to be just as fully informed as we can.
Yeah, I can't think of any more frequently asked questions, but do you have any?
I'd say basically once we do get everything buried to you, the office is going to contact you back, make an appointment for us to come back, and all we got to do at that point is plug equipment in and get your devices hooked up. So that's why we do all the legwork ahead of time. We get your house wired. We get everything buried. So that last appointment, is seamless. We try to be in and out in about 30 minutes with you, so we're not taking time out of your day,
MyFMTC.com. That is the website to get signed up. And also, this is Thomas Bates, and this is Isabelle Allen. We are thrilled that you come in and talk with us about this stuff. It's fascinating. And by the way, Thomas, if you want a career in podcasting, I got you covered. You're doing well. So we appreciate you coming in and taking care of this.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yep.
We have fun talking about FMTC and sharing the good word. So thanks for having us.
All right, come back soon for the next episode of NOC Talk presented by FMTC.